All right, guys. Today we are going to be reacting to this is why bachelorettes parties are a risk for relationship. Let's jump in.
Wife that wants to travel
We're
to
gonna go to
another
Twitch, Damien. Go ahead.
country without her husband or to a nightclub with her friend is actually already single. He just doesn't know it yet.
Do you have a response to this?
Yeah, I'm never leaving my husband, so.
Okay.
And can we add some context? Like, we've been best friends for years. I introduced her to her husband, so I know him very well. But like recently, we've had this conversation over the last few years about being able to travel down to Mexico. And now she's been invited to a bachelorette party where no husbands are going. All of the wives or girlfriends or whatever are going as a group. And so... should she not be trusted to be cautious and to be careful and to still be allowed to go and enjoy that?
I'm not letting my girlfriend or wife going to a bachelorette party.
So would you go and like hang out nearby?
No, she's just not. She's not going.
So then if you were invited, would you go?
Here,
No,
let me paint it like this.
No, man. Attraction is not a choice, guys. Remember that. Attraction is not a choice.
That was what I was getting
You
at
can
earlier.
go. You can go. The relationship is over. It was nice to meet you. We have different values. You're not respecting my boundaries. I'm not going to control you. You go ahead and get drunk and have your male stripper. That is not conduct.
That's extreme.
That is not conduct conducive to, in my view, in terms of what I want in a partner, to a long-term relationship or a marriage.
Would you
can
have
do
a
it.
bachelor party?
No.
Would your wife have a bachelorette
I
party?
wouldn't. These dudes who get strippers, that's fucking weird.
It's not about strippers. Bachelorette parties are not for only strippers.
Okay, well, look.
Well, then
Like
why-
you
Well,
can go,
you know what's crazy?
and go and have no.
Well, why
Sure.
why having a bachelor party? You can simply have a party in your own house. Why? You see how they do this stuff?
Sure, hang on, sure,
Like-
you're right. If there's absolutely going to be zero strippers there and you guys are just like hanging out and sewing stuff, then yeah, she can go, sure.
Or just sitting at a resort, just at the pool, where you don't even leave the
well,
resort.
that's different. When you say a bachelorette party, right, what comes to mind is not a resort where you're sitting at the pool. What comes to mind is that you're at a male strip club, right? That's what comes to mind.
Or there's like-
But if you're saying,
I don't think so.
if you're, or there's strippers involved. If you're saying that is not the case, right? And the bachelorette party is, well, me and the girls are just going to get together in the local resort and have some drinks and this and that. Then what would even the problem be there, right? Like, why even bring that up as being something in which would be controlling for somebody to say yes or no to, right? What's even objectionable there?
What do you mean? I'm just saying there's a specific reason and event to go out of the country. Whether they decide to partake
Out
in
of the country.
activities that are inappropriate is totally different than.
She's gonna end up divorced. 100%. Right here. She's convincing her of her actions. She's getting divorced, guys.
Trusting your wife to be able to travel safely and come back safely and
Oh,
still
that's
make
a trust.
still make the choices while she's there to not engage in inappropriate activity. That's her
So,
choice. That's
but
respect.
We're back to the idea of trust, right? And so the idea is that I don't think it's a breach of trust for somebody to have fears which may not be considered by you to be rational. So for instance, I'm not in your brain, so I don't know what goes on in your brain. There's a good possibility you're the most trustworthy person on planet Earth, and you know if you go to a place like that you would never do anything like that. But your significant other doesn't know that. They don't know that for sure. They can think it. They can 100% put as much faith in it as they possibly can, but they could still have an irrational fear there, or even in this case, even a legitimate fear. And why not do everything you could to placate that person's fear by something so simple? Something so simple as just, it's not all about me, but also about you too. And if it's all about us and not just me, then if this really bothers you that much, I don't want your brain tortured. I don't want your mind tortured. I don't want you hurting. So I'm going to stay here with you instead. That seems like a great compromise.
But didn't you say that it was revenge?
Well, hang on, respond real quick.
Yeah. You see, there we go. There you go. She had to jump in because they're personalizing the argument, so she had to jump in. She feel identified, so she had to apply a little bit of that sisterhood, right?
I can't agree. I don't agree with you. Like, I think it's it's one thing to say, oh, I have an irrational fear, but it's another to let irrational fear control how you're going to conduct your relationship and where you go and what you do. Again, I gave a very valid option of, right, like if you feel so strongly that it could be unsafe, travel with her there, stay in the same hotel, allow her to do the things with the group of girls that are not inappropriate, and be there and be a protector for her if that's how strongly you feel.
Remember that all of this is a compromise on her behalf. What's her compromise?
Sometimes relationships are compromises.
Hang on. Let me ask the question. What's the compromise on his behalf? What is she compromising for him in this situation?
She's not the one restricting
Hey, there we go.
Hey.
There we go. I knew she was gonna jump in, guys. See, they're trying to protect each other. She's right now in a bad position, but she jumping into the conversation. She's giving her time to come up with a better answer, guys.
Yeah, let her answer the question.
Hey?
We don't need the sisterhood things.
You mean
There we go. I told you.
I mean,
at this point, nothing. Like, but
Yeah,
at different points in a
exactly.
relationship, you
Nothing.
make different
So
compromises.
hang on.
though.
So in this case, in the situation, right? The idea here is he makes all the compromise, you make none.
This
and
time.
So hang on. So the idea here is that, well, then why should he compromise at all? Why not dig in his heels instead and say, no, I don't think you should go, and I don't want you to go. And whether or not you think that that's fair or irrational, I'm going to stick by my guns like you're sticking by yours. That doesn't seem like it's very healthy.
Well, there will be, I'm sure, many other situations where she will have to compromise for him.
Oh, wow.
Maybe this situation, no, but
Sorry, she's talking on her behalf. This is heading to a straight divorce, guys. Straight divorce, because she will put all these bad ideas on her. She's a more dominant, right? And she's a more submissive in the relationship. See, look at her body language, shoulders forward, right? Little crush in her back. You see the neck is just moving. It looks like it's a little bit collapsed. And you see here the ex corn in the field star, right? She's always, with her chest out, or a little more confident. This is gonna end up badly.
he can make that compromise now, and
That's
she can
exactly
make.
how a relationship
feel like it
works.
does
There's all
depend
sorts
on
of
the
compromises.
situation.
All
Yeah,
sorts of
'cause-
compromises made across a wide spectrum for all sorts of things. Perhaps she has issues with money, right? This is a very common thing. Women want to see X amount of money in the bank account for large expenditures, so the man compromises a large expenditure that he wants to make so that she feels that sense of security. That happens all the time in relationships. It's one of the number one reasons people get divorced, in fact, is over money, because they don't want a larger expenditure. Men like to spend on large expenditures. They like to take a little bit more risk with money. Women like to take less risk with money. So a compromise, right? Okay, you can see the fatter bank account. That's great, okay? But I also don't want you to go gallivanting to Europe, okay, for a bachelorette party. You think you can do that for me? That seems to be
Very reasonable.
a pretty reasonable ask.
Very reasonable.
And it seems like it's very selfish and self-centered to instead say, no, I'm a boss babe, I do what I want, and the compromise only works here one way.
Damn.
But I didn't say I'm a boss babe and I do what I want. I said there are
I'm not
options.
talking about you specifically.
Either way, for any woman, if you're rational and you can think and you can say, like, are you willing to do this and make this compromise so that I can be there for this important event? And then obviously prior and later on down the road, I will make compromises for you as well. That's just how relationships work.
Yeah, but you're not going to compromise on the thing that he wants now, right? This is like, in this case, he does all the compromise, you do none. Right? Why would this be a deal breaker? Would this be a deal breaker to compromise on this and say?
I mean, I think the compromise. I think the compromise would be him attending the Bachelorette
Wow.
and being on property.
Wow, that's the compromise. Wow. So the fact that she's even talking about the husband on this topic like this, completely emasculated.
While I'm participating in this process.
She wants her friends. She's more worried about her friend than her husband. And this is always a losing proposition for females, because they always end up, of course, divorced. But as guys, right? You always need, as guys, you always need to keep your friends around, right? But guys, we call him a loser if, right, he sacrifices his own marriage. But he or she's doing behavior that's sacrificing her own marriage. But nobody's calling her a loser. Nobody's calling her a loser. And even though we know that her actions are wrong. Isn't that interesting? It's like females, they give the okay sign when it comes down to degenerate bad behavior. They're all okay with it. They're coming out with the sister who's defending her.
And that is something that we have discussed. So, you know, I can understand. I even feel like I've said this with my partner, that I feel like, you know, his reservations are coming from a place of fear. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think you articulated it well. The compromise for me would be him going with me and traveling to the place that we're going for the Bachelorette, and then kind of checking in and out while we do the girls only kind of stuff.
You lose respect.
Well, wait.
She will lose respect. She will lose literally respect for the guy. Nah.
I mean, that doesn't assuage the fear. Why? So.
Well, if he's with me, then that does assuage the fear.
No. If he's checking out while you're doing the girls' portion of it, right? That defeats the entire purpose of what creates the fear to begin with.
Can you expand on that?
What's that? Yeah, if you said he checks out while you do whatever the girls' portion is, right?
Yeah, like he wouldn't go to the spa with the girls because he's not like it's not co-ed.
But that defeats the purpose. It's what you're doing with the girls that is so concerning, right? And that's the problem.
No, it's for him. It's the travel out of the country without him that is the problem.
Well, I mean, in this case, perhaps it's a good enough compromise to say you're going with me to the place. You know what I mean? So that you can see with your own eyeballs, and you know that in some ways, you know, mitigates your fear. Perhaps that's fair enough to do. But I think it's also fair to compromise and just say, well, you know, if this really is such a problem for you, then I just won't go. You know, I just won't go. If it really is something that's going to torture your brain, it's going to torture your mind. Well, even if I don't think it's rational necessarily, I know that you remember that I do all sorts of things that are irrational all the time and have all sorts of fears which are irrational all the time. And, you know, you're pretty understanding about those. So, you know, I'll be understanding about this. And for some, but I think for women often what happens is they only see the compromise on the one side because men generally tend to be so logical, they forget that they also have fears, whether you think they're rational or not.
Yo, she shut down. Look at that. Wow, look at that, man. Look at that. Look at her. Look at her. First of all, she started drinking some water, right? Which is while he was talking. And you can say, PJ, I think you're going way too into it. Look at this. He was talking, and they have no argument for him, right? Look at her
all
body
the time
language.
And have all sorts of fears which are irrational all the time.
Look at that.
And you know, you're pretty understanding about
whatever,
this,
dude.
So, you know, I'll be
whatever, dude.
Understanding about this. And for some, but I think for women,
look at this. Look. She just broke eye contact. She's not listening.
They only see the compromise on the one side because men generally tend to be so logical, they forget that they also have fears, whether you think they're rational or not.
Look at that. Look at her.
I definitely see both sides where Andrew's coming from.
Man.
Like I've been in a situation where, you know, me and my friends were planning on going to Mexico. It ended up not happening anyways, but my boyfriend, you know, he expressed his concerns about my safety, and I don't think it was, like, me personally, I don't think it was controlling in any way, which I think that's a lot of what women think that is like they're just being controlling. But like in that situation,
I mean,
he was looking out for my safety.
Let's just assume for a second it is controlling. Like, so what? In relationships, we control each other's behavior all the time. We control our preferences all the time. We control all sorts of things in the behavior of the person that we're with. For the purpose of necessity, we have to do this. People have to control each other, literally, at least to some degree. You know, otherwise you wouldn't even know what your significant other's preferences were. You know, there's always a segment of control in a relationship. I just think that that's fine. I don't see why that's a big deal exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that seems totally reasonable to me. That both sides in a relationship want to have control over different arenas for different reasons, and they have to give and take, right?
Good point. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the next one, guys.